happening right now. A judge has sentenced a man to death for his part in the murders of a mother and her two daughters during a home invasion. It's one of two high-profile sentencing cases that we're following today. Joshua Komisarjevsky's in Connecticut, and the so-called barefoot bandit is in a Seattle federal court to find out how long he could spend in prison. I want to bring in Meg Strickler to get some legal perspective here. She's a defense and international law attorney. Thank you so much, Meg, for being here. You know, it has been such an emotional day in court for the Petit family. Joshua Komisarjevsky actually stood up and said, "I was honest in my confession then and now. I will never find peace again. My soul is torn." That is from the man who is on his way to death row. But a lot of people, though, Meg, want to know is, how long is he going to be there? When might this man actually die?
Oh, please. I mean, it's going to be a long time, because anytime someone is sentenced to death in any state in the United States, it takes a long time to make sure all appellate issues are fought out. So I would think it's going to probably be at least 10 years. That's just how our system works. We want to make sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted prior to him receiving that death sentence.
You know, Richard Hawk is the father of Jennifer Hawk Petit, who was murdered, the mother in this case. He said they offered to give you everything you asked for. You didn't have to take their lives. This sentencing at the end of the day, Meg, we knew it was coming. Wasn't this more about finally allowing this family to have their say?
I think it's some closure for the victims, and it's a wonderful way to have some sort of closure, to understand what was going on here, why did this all happen, and then now we get closure hearing that he's going to get the death penalty. It just helps everybody understand that, look, we're all human beings, stuff happened, but now he's been sentenced, he's convicted, the case is over. Now, we can't move on if we were the victims in this case, meaning Mr. Petit, but at least he has some closure, and that's the best thing we can have here.
Boy, isn't it really? That's just one of those things that I think really haunted people for a long time as we watched that whole thing unfold. Let's talk about the barefoot bandit in a Seattle courtroom today to find out how much he's going to pay for his cross-country spree of you know, stealing planes and boats and cars, most of the time while barefoot, hence the name. What do you think? How much time is he looking at?
Well, the federal system is a lot different than the state system. There's sentencing guidelines that are going to be applied here. And so he's already being sentenced to a guideline of 18 months, if I remember correctly. And so what the defense attorney will do is offer a statute, it's called 3553A, that all defense attorneys, including myself, argue and say, Judge, does this sentence apply to this crime, and does it work? And thankfully in the federal system recently, in the past decade or so, the guidelines are no longer mandatory, which really helps every single case that's out there. So I'm hoping that he will get a downward departure in this case. He'll probably get 12 months, my guess would be.
He was only 19 years old when the whole thing happened, but I think this is one of the unusual aspects to this case as well. As I understand it, in August, 20th Century Fox acquired the rights to his story, and he signed for $1 million. Now, some people may obviously be outraged at that. I understand that that money will go to compensate his victims, but when have you ever seen a situation where a criminal signs a deal like that before going into prison?
Well, it's very normal to have, you know, people that are charged with things get book deals, you know, anything of those things. But in this particular situation, as part of the plea agreement, he has signed away all profits. Anything that he's going to receive that he signed as part of all this case, he will not receive. And that was part of the federal government's actions as part of the plea agreement. There's a long document that we signed as part of a sentence agreement, and that he will not see a penny of that book deal that he signed.
I think that's one thing everybody wanted to make sure of. Meg Strickler, thank you so much for your insight. As always, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Sure. Susan?